Okay, this is my. I'm going to go over this a couple times. Let me make this very short. The IQ test is biased because it is created by certain societies. It was originated by a certain society, and that is the West. Okay, a Western country created the IQ test. Thus, those in the Western countries, not necessarily in Western countries, not necessarily everyone in those Western countries, but those who are in Western countries have an advantage in the IQ test than those who are not in the Western countries. Okay, so pointing out the fact that Asians score better than those who originated the IQ test, which are from the West, does not take away from the fact that the Asians had to overcome a disadvantage that clearly favors the West. So, bringing up the fact that Asians, the IQ test is not biased because Asian countries have outperformed white nations, is not it's not sufficient proof, because it does not take away from the fact that the IQ test was originated in the West. It is like an African tribe writes a test that tests how intelligent you are in their environment without technology. Okay, without technology, which is probably in the jungle or somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, which is not modernized. Okay, if they originated a test like that, most people from the West would fail. If not all whites, all blacks, all members of the modernized society would fail that test. Okay, they would not have the intellectual capacity to survive in those type of climates. The same thing with the cold. I know that Aryans say that, some Aryan supremacists say that they are the most evolved race because they originated from the cold climates, which are more challenging. But those same Aryans, every single one of those same Aryans would fail without technology in Alaska, in Siberia, in all those cold climates compared to the Eskimo. Okay, if they wrote an IQ test, or if they wrote a test that tested intellectual capacity to succeed in those environments, the Aryan would fail. Okay. Now, if the Aryan does succeed, that is in spite of the disadvantage that they would have in those type of environments. Okay, just because an Aryan or anybody from the modern society can succeed without technology in those type of climates, which would be very rare, does not take away from the fact that those type of environments are biased toward the intellectual capacity of those who already live in those type of environments, which is the Eskimo in the supreme cold environment, and which is the sub-Saharan African, black African, or Australoid, or what they call them, Aborigines in Australia. Okay, so this notion that the IQ test does not reflect bias is absurd in the context that it does not recognize the reality that the IQ test was developed by the West. Okay, it was developed by a Western nation. Somewhere in France, somewhere in England, someone developed and created that test. And that test was to measure intellectual capacity in a modernized society with technology. That simple. It is not an objective test. Point blank, period. Okay? Without question, it is not an objective test. It does not matter if the Asian nations have mastered or have outperformed those who created the test. Okay, that can only prove that maybe they are superior or have better genes than those who created the test. I don't think so, because I think that they, from the last, like from 1950 or from 1940 onward, they tried to emulate or were strongly influenced by the West in how they created the society, and they were strongly motivated, or their culture is so strongly built to value education and those ways of thinking that are favorable or that are necessary to succeed on an IQ test. Okay. So again, just because Asians overachieve on the IQ test, overachieve in subjects which traditionally are valued by the West, does not take away the bias that it has toward other non-white nations or other non-Western nations. I mean, that is not proof. Okay. Yes, you can say, well, not everybody can create the IQ test. Yes, I understand that point. But if we look at the context of the IQ test, those IQ tests are geared toward mathematics and science. Okay, they're not geared in numbers. And I'll get to what the IQ test doesn't measure in my next video. But it is not a purely objective and complete measurement of intellectual capacity, without question. It is not commie. It's not communist. It's not a Jewish conspiracy. It's not some far-wing hating black nationalist. It is a fact. Okay, and that's how I'm stating it. It's an indisputable, objective, and analytical fact. And that's all I have to say about that. So, I hope I'm a little more clear about what I'm trying to say. Have a nice day.